I'm going to go over to Nestor. You're here. I'm super excited to talk about you because I haven't seen you forever, and it seems a shame that I don't get to come see you guys in your local.
Hi, Lani.
Hi, so good to have you. So everyone that's listening in today, Nestor Restrepo is the Director of Professional Digital Learning for Dallas Independent School District. He's one of our longtime friends and an intellectual giant in his own right. We just love the heck out of this guy. So yeah, so you're going to be sharing about the search for the new normal, and do you want me to screen share with you? I'm going to give you presenter status.
Okay.
If you want it, do you want to do that, or do you just want to have a dialogue?
We can go either way. I only have just 4 slides just to guide the conversation. I'm okay either way.
Oh, well, let's share your slides. Slides are fun. Okay, so I'm going to share. Yeah, you're presenter now, so you go up to share and do your sharing.
Okay, let me go into presenting mode here.
Yeah, you have to figure out where the sharing button is.
Can you see my screen?
Waiting. Yep. Oh, wow, outer space, my favorite. Awesome, I love it. Yep, we're seeing it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. I'll put myself on mute and let you go and share.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nestor Restrepo. As Lani said, I work with Dallas Independent School District. I have been in education, public education, for a number of years. Right now, I have the honor of working with in the realm of professional and digital learning. When I was invited to this conversation, I was really excited because I wanted to join a conversation where I can grow and learn new things. Every time I have a conversation with Leilani, I learn something new, and this is not going to be the exception, I'm sure. So why I did select this picture, for the search of the new normal, I think my unconscious mind tried to say or to tell me that there is a lot out there, and we don't know in reality for certain what is really available to us. So there is an expression from my superintendent, Dr. Michael Hinojosa. He says that nobody out there is an expert on how to overcome the challenges of a pandemic. And I really like that expression because it's so true. We are all, like Leilani was saying just minutes ago, we are sometimes overwhelmed, freaked out, in panic. There are so many things, so many moving pieces, and very often it escapes to our consciousness to see the real path ahead. And I don't think we're going to conclude this conversation with a clear path, but with a very different idea. So continuing with the space theme, I wanted to provide a little bit of context for the conversation. At district level, we all know that there are some components that are essential, not only for the digital transition, but also to be able to thrive in this new environment of virtual learning. So what you see on the screen is the International Space Station. This is not an updated picture. This is only from 2011. I can assume that it's a lot more complex now, but for the purposes of the idea that I want to share today, this is going to work just fine. So we know that the International Space Station is built and putting together a lot of modules in sequence. And they work together for different purposes: to keep the astronauts alive, to be able to perform different types of experiments in physics, astrophysics, biophysics, biology, genetics, you name it. And each piece has its own specialization area, their own specialized area in which they will play a part. So when we have to move from in-person instruction to remote learning, we knew the basics of what that might entail. So yeah, students are going to need devices. Oh yeah, it's not a big surprise. And they are going to need internet access. Of course, they are going to need internet access. And we need something, we need the what on that device, the subject courseware or the LMS and all those things. But also there is a last component. I'm putting it in here as a skills, but it can have different labels. And in there, I'm talking about the how. How are we going to manage those pieces together to be able to help students learn? So it is not easy. Just because we know we need devices and just because we need connectivity, that's a given. It is not a given. Our district started a transition, a rollout program for one-to-one devices year and a half ago. It started with middle schools, high schools, and this year was going to be elementary schools. That schedule got sped up by a lot because of the current circumstances. So now, based on the report from our chief technology officer last week, we are close to 95% of device distribution. Like we know that 95% plus 95% of our students have a device, and that's not the only good news. We also have that remaining number of devices ready to be shipped and distributed to campuses to reach the goal of 100%. We just started virtual instruction on September the 8th. So we really just started school. So not only that, not only we need to take care of the device distribution and make sure that the students have a device to access whatever they need to access, we also need to make sure that they have connectivity at home. So the district also embarked on a massive hotspot distribution. Right now, I think the number is around 16,000 Wi-Fi hotspots. And based on some conversations with IT friends, I think we can easily reach the 30,000 in just a few weeks. So that's also a huge piece that districts are now forced to compute in their regular starting of the school year. And remember, starting a school year is already stressful. And you know that if you have been in education, it's challenging. Now, even more so. So all this just to say, okay, just because our students have devices and just because our students have internet at home, it's not just we check this box and everything should go smooth. Not at all. We, our district, based on the plan, the technology plan that embarked on it about 2 years ago, we also have several learning management systems available to all our teachers, and they have been available for quite some time. But like Lilani was talking about a few minutes ago, yeah, that software was available, but not everybody was using it. But now, due to the current circumstances, now everybody is being told, okay, you need to learn how to use this. And not just being told, because on the last component, the skill component, we cannot just expect educators and students to click on an icon and magic will happen and education and instruction is gonna be taken care of automatically. There is a lot to it. We have been training our teachers, and I will say that between live webinars and self-paced courses, we have probably about 100,000 completions, mainly teachers, on those technology skills and other skills that are required, not only restricted to learning management systems or video conferencing tools. Also, some of the topics go over cultural intelligence, trauma-informed decisions. So it's a myriad of topics that we cannot forget. So just because we are handling devices and we have a good platform to deploy content, we cannot assume that we don't have to take care of many other things. Like in that picture that you have on your screen, there are so many moving pieces that need to be considered. We cannot forget our English learners. We cannot forget our special population students, special education students. So we need to continue to provide that level of support for all our students. So we go to the next one. And this is going to take us to another type of conversation. So we can probably tell, yeah, we can see now a prescriptive list of things that we need to do, right? But it's not that easy yet, because like you were mentioning on your last conference, for instance, how to harness parent involvement. I have parent, the triad, teacher, student, parent. I have parent at the end, but I would like to start with them. They are probably the ones that are feeling the biggest challenges right now. You know, a year ago, a parent will be okay with just asking over dinner, "Hey son, how was school today?" And the son may reply with something interesting, "Oh, everything was okay, nothing new." Now, that's not possible. That's totally unthinkable. Now, parents have to start thinking in different ways. The level of support and involvement has to grow along with the challenges that we're facing. So parents now need to make more specific questions, like how many assignments did you get today? And how many have you submitted? And they don't have to be experts on statistics, algebra, calculus, English literature, but they can help their kids just by, do you know how to reach your teacher in case that you need help? Do you know where to find the tutoring hours or the office hours of your teacher? So now the level of involvement goes beyond the surface that we were so accustomed before, because the challenges are huge and we are going to need a lot of parent involvement. And on the question of how to harness it, I can share with you guys that about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the district deployed and did something like a parent summit, like a parent conference, and the district put together a lot of topics. I remember participating on video conferencing tools, showing parents the basics, what to expect, what can students expect. So normally parent involvement is an afterthought, but now it has to be at the forefront. And our district has tried to do that emphatically, and not only, surrounding the technology and the digital tools available to the district, but also social and emotional learning. We all know, everybody sitting in front of a screen right now knows that student motivation and student engagement is going to be more difficult. The level of stamina that a student will need to just to do their work is totally different when you're in a virtual environment versus in an in-person environment. So I would like to really share that it is extremely important to compute parent involvement in all the plans that you are making, and also try to align the conversations that you want to have with parents to what you are having inside of your district. So if you are now receiving a lot of information and training on learning management systems, have a conversation with your parents also about learning management systems. If you have received a lot of information about cultural intelligence, do the same with your parents. Social and emotional learning, do the same with your parents. Accessibility features surrounding devices or programs, also do the same with parents. They want to know all that. Just put it at a level that is going to be friendly to them, and you will have great conversations. So not stopping there, going into the teacher and the student. If you remember a few slides ago with Leilani, the teacher, the level of work and the complexities of their day-to-day is just overwhelming when you look at what teachers have to do. And I've been in the classroom. I was in the classroom for a number of years, And sometimes as teachers, we forget all what we do until we see a slide like the one Leilani shared a few minutes ago. And it's a lot. And the time we spend curating resources on our own time every night at home is just enormous. So the teacher, the teacher component and the teacher factor in the success of deploying or studying virtual instruction is impossible to be overstated. As I mentioned before, we try to deploy lots and lots of learning opportunities for our teachers in many different areas, not only surrounding technology and digital tools, but other things as well. But even then, we cannot just say, okay, we did our required professional development. They have the chance to choose some of the topics, check, move on. The support to the teacher has to be continuous. In our district, for instance, all departments, they also have like office hours for teachers. So if they need help finding some of the content specific resources, they know where they will also find at campus level, now virtually, that they will find somebody to ask some basic questions before they probably need to escalate and get somebody from the IT department involved. So there are so many moving pieces, like in that International Space Station picture, that have to be considered that we will never finish. And I don't think we will ever finish. On the student side, I think there is a lot to say regarding the students. I have a 7-year-old, he's a second grader. And what I have witnessed while he goes through virtual instruction has been very interesting. It has its pros, it has its cons, but I can't really wait to see the first wave of research papers coming in the next few months, talking about the difference in these environments, the in-person versus the virtual environment. I think we're going to have a plethora of research papers giving us a lot of light, because remember, it's not a clear path. And I assume that every single district is trying to do its best, having always the student in mind. But that doesn't mean that everything that we're going to do is going to be right. But on the other hand, it's also a great opportunity to learn about the things that we thought were right, but you know what? We need to reevaluate this. So I am humbled by the whole situation. I think we are living, at least personally, I think I am living the most interesting time of my life at professional level. I think we're gonna talk in different terms a year from now, 2 years from now, about what we used to do before and after COVID. And you might be thinking, well, I think we can easily go back to normal and go back to what instruction was. But I think we are not going to witness something of that sort. I think what we are going to see is a new landscape. It's going to look different depending on what you are looking at. But I don't think we're going to go exactly to the way of doing things before COVID. The exposure that we are having in public education to new things is going to make a huge difference. And I'm not just talking about what the teacher does in front of the students. I'm talking about how principals are going to evaluate teachers in virtual environments. I'm talking about how our admins used to do things before COVID, how we used to conduct meetings. What was the first choice for teachers when they selected or when they make a choice for professional development? So many things are going to be so different that I hope, at least, I hope that they are not going to be exact same things as we were doing before COVID, but this is going to be a catalyst for change. The digital transformation conversation that we have been having for months, maybe years, is going to be affected. We have this catalyst, this situation is speeding things up. The good thing is that it's forcing us to make and apply those changes. The not so good thing is that who knows if we are going to have enough time to reflect on what we are doing. Who knows how long are we going to have to wait to see, okay, this will be a good set of best practices for this environment. And for this other environment, these will be the other best practices. I think we are going to have to wait for some time before we see materials like that. But still, I am super optimistic, and I think the changes that are coming, even when the pandemic passes, are going to impact very positively the learning environment that our students are exposed to. And that's what I had today, Leilani.
Well, this was awesome. This was awesome. I love the analogy of the space station picture because, you know, the number of parts in play is enormous. So really what you've been doing, mapping that to the minds of the teachers, the parents, and the students, is giving them a mental structure of how space, time, and resources all work together. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, and it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of people, and sometimes you have to do things that are unorthodox. For instance, most of the people that I work with, they have been spending long hours working, developing resources, developing assets. I have spent several weekends helping packing computers, packing hotspots at a warehouse. So I think we are all in this together, and we have this mentality that everybody has to go out of their comfort zone for the good of the students.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have a lot of stories, Nestor, about, you know, what that's done to people, you know, the human side of this from a leadership perspective. Wow. Like, wow. I mean, I've had superintendents say they've been on calls where teachers just start crying, you know. We had a superintendent in, I think it was Beaver, Utah, you know, when they first put their kindergartners on a Zoom meeting, you know, in quarantine, the kindergartners all cried for the joy of just seeing each other again. You know, so you have not only a complexity that's entered in and a, you know, you're moving the whole battleship at once, but you also have a human healing moment. People are not over that. I don't think they're going to be over it for a while. It's like we all just went to war and there's still wounded laying all over the battlefield. What have you seen in Dallas? What's happening?
Well, we just started on September the 8th. We haven't received like many reports of unusual things or interesting things happening, but based on the emails and phone calls that team members are receiving, many teachers are feeling overwhelmed. So many times is because of the lack of experience and managing and handling digital tools. But some other times it's just because it's too much. It is too much. And sometimes, not sometimes, often, teachers are the heavy lifters on every single initiative a district wants to put together. So I think it's going to be some time before teachers start breathing at a normal pace, at a normal rate, and find like a new balance between their virtual learning environments and the in-person kiddos when we get our students also in person in our schools.
Yeah,
the learning opportunity. I think the learning opportunity is going to be amazing, and I honestly believe that the findings and what research is going to bring forward soon is going to make a big difference on how we see things and the possibilities and the self limitations that we impose on ourselves sometimes when we think and when we consider new ways of doing things. So I really can't wait to see what we're going to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're keeping an eye on that a lot as Learning Council, just who's bubbling out as having an easier road and who's having a really tough time. It's different for the different size districts. I think whatever research comes out is going to have to be weighed against the pattern of size. You guys are a big district. The smaller ones seem to have it easier without changing structure, time and space use too much, just because they're smaller, right? It's easier to manage.
Right.
But the larger ones, I mean, you have, certain factions of families and parents who are like, nope, we're out. We're, not doing it that way. And then you have other ones who are like, they'll go along to get along kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you want to do is just fine with them. And then, you got every sort of shade in between, so your flexibility being asked of a large district is wild. Parents.
Yeah, I think also where this district is sitting in space and time as well makes because we're in the middle of rollout, to be one-to-one. We were not completed. We were in the way to complete that, to accomplish that, and also we were all having a very big movement, a very big initiative of cultural intelligence, social and emotional learning. So all those things put together, they can provide the raw materials to really address the needs of the student. I'm not trying to say that we will have the answers to everything, but at least we have something to start with, to learn from. Once we start implementing and deploying some of those initiatives in a virtual environment, we are going to learn also, firsthand information about how things are going to work. So I believe that we were somehow very lucky on where we were when all this craziness arrived, because we were positioned in such a way that, yeah, I think we can handle it. And we have the leadership. The district already made big investments on some resources that were just expedited during this time. But I cannot imagine what it would be if we were not starting, the one-to-one rollout or making those investments on resources and deploying also those other initiatives. It would be way more challenging.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, some of the Texas districts, you guys, Houston, San Antonio, you guys are way ahead of a lot of the rest of the country already going into this. You had some structure, you had a lot of resources already in full capacity, a lot of that was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we were very lucky.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's why I said that we were very lucky because of how the district was positioned when all this arrived. Hello?
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I have more than one person in my ear, so it's as I'm running these things. Yeah, so Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, those guys, some big stuff. There was also a lot of Texas districts that we've talked to along the way that were doing interesting things. But really proud of you, proud of all of the work that you've been doing. Have a lot more questions for you, Nestor. If you don't mind staying on a little bit longer, do we have you a little longer?
Yes, I can stay a little longer.
Okay, good. All right. So in terms of structure, you've already sort of hinted at, the complexity levels. I want to pull up a slide, if you're still watching the screen, that I started to talk about with regards to what were the issues, right? The mostly unautomated things, to hear your thoughts about what you think about this. So workflow logistics, I think you heard us talk about this last year when we were in the house with you guys. The difference between teacher being central mode of distribution of all things and automating some of that so that some of the workflow, at least for your asynchronous learning, is, sort of built out so that it's automated, move to module 2, move to module 3 kind of a thing, or go back into Google Docs, or, go back into the LMS, do this. Have you seen that starting to be being talked about? Is workflow starting to be a thing yet with you guys?
Our district offers a lot of flexibility to campuses. So what I have seen is principals making decisions based on their own particular circumstances about how to proceed, what tools to use, what workflows to follow, how to support their teachers. So I think just because of that level of flexibility and autonomy that campuses have, that provides right there a lot of help. So the bureaucracy doesn't get in the way of doing things right, and you don't have to ask for permission for every single thing that you do. So I think at campus level, things are more horizontal and information flows well, and the exchange of information is very, 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 very fast, and they can make decisions, informed decisions based on what they are sharing. So I will need to do more research about what is happening at some individual campuses, but that's what I have witnessed in general.
That's good. That's a positive thing. So local control, helpful. However, one of the things that we've heard before starting to be talked about in local control is as you shift to all digital, if you go local control all the way down to, literally every single part of what the lesson plans are going to be, you could have a situation where even in the same school, 2 different 6th grade math teachers are teaching with 2 completely different sets of curated resources. Mm-hmm. And now, if you have a failure rate that's higher in one than the other, you don't know what's the failure rate on. Because, in the textbook age, they all had to use the same textbook. Right. But now they're all using something different. I mean, in other words, it affects your continuity of operations in terms of your prediction on where the failure breakdown is. Is it the teachers, is it the students, is it the resource? Because if the resources are different one to the next, it also messes with your analytics.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that depends also the level in which professional learning communities live and thrive at at each campus. Mm-hmm. We trained and we delivered so many sessions on promoting professional learning communities at campus level. So we hope to see in the coming weeks and months that there is a lot of learning from each other at campus level. There is a lot of also commitment to do certain things because they look at data and they make informed decisions about what to do next. So I'm optimistic. Because I think the resources and the mentality and the mindset is there. And if you have the right leadership at each campus, wonderful things will happen. I'm an optimistic, so I hope to see a lot of professional learning communities really growing and making deep discussions about what is best for our students in this new environment.
Yeah, my prediction, just as outside looking in to this moment of choose, try to use, discard, or selectively retire, and choose, use, find useful, or selectively retire. I'm predicting that's a 3-year run. I think the whole market is in that moment of finally now we're at device saturation or near device saturation. We've altered models in time and space all over the place. We're not going back to normal. Mm-hmm. But the resource level question is on the table for at least the next 3 years. Like the utility of the pieces, And what I'm thinking is that there's going to come a moment when administrations watching the outside world and their individual schools and individual teachers are watching that bubble up, so that they start saying, hey, or maybe our district is not achieving as well in language learning as we could be based on what we're seeing on the outside. We need to shuffle in something that has utility, greater utility somewhere else. In other words, that giant movement of what's working and what isn't working is not an overnight thing. It's going to take a while.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people are not only watching, their own pot boil, but all the other pots to see what's going on all the time.
Yeah, you're totally right. I truly believe that everybody is acting with the best of intentions in terms of student achievement, student learning, and providing the best environment to promote learning. But the challenges are huge, and the uncertainties are huge as well. Now we have teachers, trying to connect with the students while they are laying down in their beds, next to their device. This is a very different ball game, and the things that we are going to learn, we cannot predict what is going to come up after the first year or two, like you said. But we're going to learn nonetheless. If we did the right things or not, or if we didn't, what would have worked better, or what was more acceptable for such and such environment. It is going to be very interesting to see what is coming in the pipeline of research in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really it's a little bit like we all went to war. It's like everybody's figuring out like the new ways, and all, it's kind of like a battle scene everywhere, and it's kind of wild. And what are you hearing back in terms of personalization in this moment, especially with the remote kids?
I haven't had conversations about personalization in the last week, and we just started. Most of teachers are trying to actually master how to operate within their given learning management system, and we hope that with enough support, they will reach that level of mastery that will allow and enhance some level of personalization for our students. Basic things like offering choices, not only for delivery of content, but also for demonstration of mastery. It has to be present. But these conversations are really too early for us. We just started on September the 8th, and we were not long ago very focused on trying to provide those pieces for the International Space Station, so we can make sure that astronauts will have enough oxygen, water, and resources to be alive. And now we start to look inside of the other pieces and see, okay, I think we can do better with this. Yes, we did a parent summit, but I think we can do something more frequent and regular to reach out to the community and continue important conversations on what is going on. Yes, we addressed some important pieces in terms of professional learning opportunities for our teachers to better prepare them for what was coming. But we also need to start including these other things. So it's going to be a very long process before we can have those aha moments saying, this is what we should have done. I mean, we started a week ago.
Yeah, so you're still getting warmed up, basically, is what you're saying. Okay, so let me come back to another part of this, and that is that the Learning Council is working right now, and it's particularly with state of Texas, on what the mutation could look like for an automation of the use of space and time particularly with the missing element, which is, most pacing guides are PDFs or Google Docs or spreadsheets. So that, let's say, Nestor Dallas gets, picked out as, you guys got to shut down, and you might have had some live attendance in some of the schools. So you got to go back to complete shutdown, and all of a sudden that affects everybody's lesson planning, because they're doing this, like I'm showing there. The teachers are looking at the pacing guide. Okay, I got these 3 standards. I got to teach them in week 4, and then I got to pick out my time windows, which I'm allowed to teach in because I'm sharing time with all these other teachers. And now I got to plot my lesson plan into the calendar and start knowing when I'm going to put out what assignments to do what, right? So now all of a sudden the whole calendar gets shoved forward or sideways or upside down. The cascading change there for teachers is pretty huge. So that automation algorithmically between what's going on at the pacing guide level, with the schedule level, with the lesson plan level, it's been missing in all the systems. But it's only really something to worry about if you don't have allegiance to a new sort of mutated model. If you're still in Dallas, in parts of Texas, sticking with the same schedule as you had in brick and mortar, and you're not doing like AB days, AB weeks, segmented students, only some in one part of the building on this day and some in another part of the building on another. If you're not doing that, right, then it doesn't matter to you because it's a little simpler. It's still got some complexity to it. So have you found that you've been in conversations talking about this sort of complexity, the anytime, got to shut down, anytime got to move everybody to remote, oh, now we can go back in, oh, we got to go back out?
Well, I think the upper management has been trying to predict and prepare for worst case scenario. Right now, we are 100% virtual. That's how the district opened on September the 8th. But some of the early conversations were around, okay, how are we going to make this work? So one of the models out there that were discussed was around having a model in which all students, in person and virtual, will be using a learning management system as the primary mode to get content, activities, assessment, learning, everything. So in that case, when a school shut down, if we were forced to close a school or the whole district, it will be like an easy transition from the in-person into the virtual environment, because they will be using basically the same methods and activities and ways of getting access to learning.
Okay, so that makes sense. All right. So in terms of distribution model, that move to full personalization, a little bit like this game we played when we were with you up in Dallas. Remember that game? Where we talked about what it would be to have all the kids in maybe sort of a virtual main room, right? And then they're scheduled into classes as needed, which are virtual. Right now, that's probably not necessary for you to think with, because you guys haven't really gone to alternated, totally personalized pathways. Do you feel that that's starting to be a calling by parents where they're saying, you know what, I want my kid on step 5 of math because they're ahead of the other kids. Can you give me a personalized path just for my kid? Have you seen any of that yet?
I think that's the natural progression of what is happening in education all across the country. I'm not saying that this is something due to COVID. I think that's where we are going, regardless, to a higher level of personalization of instruction, new adaptive technologies that are going to allow students to really obtain the information and be assessed at their level, even if it is above their grade level and their peers. So no, yeah, I totally agree with you. This is where we're going. This is, like you said on your slide, this is the model of the future. It's unavoidable.
Yeah, I think it is too, but only because of the outside competition of the consumer world. When you're talking to an educator who's had success teaching students any subject, their resistance is such a human trait to a model shift, to lean hard on software. And it's admirable that they would resist because they've already been successful. I would resist. You know, if I've had something working for 20 years of career as a teacher, I would probably yell and scream about real change. But the issue is that the competitive model of a school against straight up outside consumerized learning is getting really real. You know, there was at least $1 billion uptick in parent purchase as soon as quarantines went into play. You know, they were buying everything you could buy learning wise online, some of it commercial grade. The investment market went nuts in the alternate model of straight up consumerized learning. The problem is that parents say to themselves, yeah, I could find my own math modules, I could find my own language learning and books for my kid, but I'm not aligned to the map that the state's going to test my student, my child on, in order to give them a graduation certificate, right? So how do I map myself, if I'm an outsider to the system, to what I need to teach my child? And as soon as they start to encounter that, they fall back into alignment with public education or an online alternative, right? Because homeschooling is hard. And a lot of people found that out quickly. So the thing is that,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, real hard, especially if more than one kid. The public education system, the reason I brought this up, Nestor, is you guys are dealing with complexity, and I'm hoping that you're sort of sometimes communicating that with your parents. Like, listen, here's all the standards that your student is going to be held to when we do testing so that they can graduate. So I just want you to know what all is going into this recipe so that you understand why this is hard, right? As a parent, I'm sure they're learning that if you're trying to train them on the LMS and everything else, they're figuring out like, wow, the teacher has to tie this to this standards and they have to do this and they have to do it in this time. You know, it's like, this is hard. If parents are learning that this is hard, that's a good thing for public education.
Yeah, but I think also a lot of changes are going to be user driven. Yes, the market is going to have a big influence about customization and all that, but I strongly believe that students and parents are also going to play an important role on shaping the future of education with the level of access that they now have to learning resources, to the level of access that they have to assessment resources. They are going to be more and more involved as this virtual learning situation moves forward. They have to. So they are going to have a stronger voice, they are going to have a more informed opinion, and they are going to be very vocal about what is going to be best for their kids. So I also see them as a very positive changing agent in education.
Yeah, I think this is a good moment for involvement of parents. You know, because first of all, they were forced to be involved because nobody could go anywhere, right? And I don't know how many, like last 50 years, schools have been talking about, you know, the parents are disassociated, they're not even involved, you know. Always there was one or two that were really vocal, but now this surge of, you know, parent involvement and concern and all, I think having a plan like you've had to harness that and use it and build on it and create an ongoing expectation is possibly one of the best things to ever happen for public education, because you've just extended your workforce tenfold, if not 100-fold, you know, to help get a kid through, because now they have some skin in the game more than they have ever had. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's super important, the role that parents are going to play, and they are playing right now in education. Now the parent, the parent that stays at home can even hear how the teacher addressed their kid, and they can have even a say on that. And you know what? I think I should reach out to your teacher because so and so that I heard today, and this is never accessible before. So a lot of good things are going to come. there are going to be big challenges, there are going to be small challenges, but at the end, I am a very positive person, and I believe that many of those new ways of doing things are going to be for the benefit of the student, if not all.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.